Welcome to another Fibaro webinar training session. Today we're just going to be discussing transferring from previous home center controllers, so home center 2 and home center light, over to home center 3 controllers. So this is essentially if you want to upgrade your controller but already have a pre-existing system set up. So before you actually start even trying to transfer your controller, there's a couple of things that should be worth noting. So firstly, what will actually be transferred from my previous system to your new system? So let it be your home center light or your home center 2 onto your actual home center 3 controller. So what will be moved is your sections and rooms. Devices will also be set to those rooms as well, so you don't have to worry about changing all your current rooms. They'll just keep their same format. All your Z-Wave devices are transferred as well. Battery powered devices will need to be woken up after they've been transferred, just to ensure they have correct battery life and actually respond correctly to commands. All your Z-Wave parameters will also transfer over, so you don't have to worry about having your siren that's set to strobe mode only suddenly starting to blare at you in the middle of the night as well because your dog's been running around somewhere. Camera devices will also load through, however, not camera devices that are generated through plugins. Those ones will not generate through because the entire plugin interface was overhauled for virtual devices. Something else that'll transfer across as well are your direct associations. You don't need about worrying about, as we have done beforehand, with associating flood sensors to water valves. You don't have to worry about resetting those all over again, and those will actually transfer through over into the new interface. However, something that is worth noting is what will not transfer over. Scenes won't transfer over at all. They completely redid their scene interface, so all your pre-existing scenes will not be compatible and will not transfer over to the new system. You'll have to start them all from scratch again. So that's a bit of a bummer. Plugins, as I said before, the entire plugin interface was redone. In that instance, virtual devices also don't work as well because they changed from having virtual devices to what they call quick apps, which are a bit easier to use but require you to actually change how they function. Of course, energy consumption metering was also not transferred across, and your schedules, so watering and climate systems, are also not there because they updated them to have new systems. So you'll need to manually set your irrigation system and your climate system when you actually get your controllers and devices into your home center 3 as well. So first thing to actually note with this is the preparation before you actually even try and start the transfer. As a big bold note there, migration process is irreversible. Once you have transferred your stuff from your home center 2 or your home center light onto your home center 3, you won't be able to control your device with your home center 2 or light anymore. They'll be set to read-only mode, so you'll still be able to actually see the interface, but they won't respond. After that, you may as well factory default that controller, because all the devices that are currently situated on him don't respond to actual Z-Wave devices in your system. So first, you need to make sure that both your source controller and your target controller, in this case our source controller is a home center 2, and our target controller is a home center 3, are both on your Fibaro ID account. This just allows you to actually just transfer necessary data across between those two systems. After that, you need to make sure they actually have the correct firmware versions for it. So your source controller, so your home center 2 or home center light, will need at least version 4.581 or higher. The standardized one right now is 4.6, which is what we're currently using for this test. And your target controller, so your home center 3, must have at least version 5.021 or higher. At the current point in time, we actually have 5.021 running on our system, so that's what we're using for today. So now we're actually going to start doing what you need to prepare for beginning the transfer. So firstly, on your home center 2, you need to have at least one cloud backup on your controller. The reason for this is it allows you to actually, all your backups from your previous system, so let it be your light or your home center 2, will actually be transferred onto your home center 3. So all your backups from previous updates, all of your previous setup configurations will actually just migrate straight to your home center 3 because all the devices are being transferred as well. It's also worth noting down all the scenes that you actually have running your controller. Do note that as they have changed how virtual devices work with the introduction of quick apps, your allow scenes as well will also function differently. So in regards to that, you will have to relearn how to actually code your allow functions. However, with your Home Center 3 controller, your Home Center 3 is completely fine. You don't need to do any adjustments to it. In fact, when you actually go through the transfer stage for it, it will actually factory default your Home Center 3 controller as well. So make sure it's all clear for a fresh install. So to actually start the transfer, you simply select your source device. So in this instance, this will be actually under the Fibaro interface itself. I'll show you that in a bit. You need to select your source controller and your target controller. As it's noted down the bottom, there's actually a couple of parts to it that'll actually prompt you to go through each step of the process just to make sure everything runs through without any issues. So what we'll actually do is we will actually start transfer. Right, so as you saw before on the screen, we have a Home Center 3 and we have a Home Center 2 set up. Office is our Home Center 2. We can just very easily access the controller. So as you can see, we have a couple of devices in this. We have a Fibaro flood sensor, Fibaro motion sensor with their corresponding devices. We also have a water valve and a dimmer. They're actually located behind me. We need a second camera for this one, so it's easier to see. They currently function as you expect them to. So dim's on and water valve functions as you would. So first thing we actually need to do is we need to go into configuration of this controller and make sure we actually have a cloud backup of this controller. I do not believe I currently have one on this one, as this is a fresh controller. So we will need to create a cloud backup to begin with, simply by saying create backup and name it. So before transfer. Apologies for typing. So this will just go through the standardized backup process. And while it's going through that, we can just simply look at our Fibaro Home Center 2 control, sorry, Home Center 3 controller. So currently fresh controller, no room selected for it, and there are no devices in the system. So that is just completely clear. This one will actually be factory reset as well. So if you do have any controllers on there, like devices by default, you'll have to unpair them and repair them to the controller again. But yeah, from that it should be all good. Just have to wait for a moment for this guy to finish his backup. And once he has finished his backup, we will begin migration. So as you can see, we have a fresh new backup called before transfer. Version is 4.6. We have 2 scenes, 2 devices, and rooms assigned to it as well. So once we go from here, we can simply do transfer configuration up here in this little setting. This will load through and ask us what our source controller is. So for this, we'll do a Home Center 2 and our target controller, which is our Home Center 3. As it states up here, it'll tell you exactly what's transferred across, which is your rooms, your associations, parameters are all moved from your source gateway, and they all essentially, as it states, will still be there, but they will no longer communicate. This will be useful in certain instances where you want to just, if you've noted down a scene incorrectly, what's controlling what, you'll just be able to go back to the Home Center 2 and make sure you've actually got the correct devices selected. Once we've done that, we simply just start the process. Yep. So it gives us a bit of a warning, essentially telling us exactly what we had before. Well, once we do that, we just simply press continue. So what it's currently doing is it's actually moving the backup files from Home Center 2 to our Home Center 3, and is informing us that we'll have to factory reset our Home Center 2 afterwards. And confirm. Now what it's just doing is resetting our Home Center 2. This doesn't actually clear its interface. I will show you later on as well. But essentially, it's just making sure all of the devices that are actually on that controller will no longer have any association to actual existing devices in our system. So as you can see there, the reset has been complete, and it will now actually factory reset our Home Center 3 as well. So simply press confirm and wait for it to finish through the cycle. These factory resets are actually quite fast as well, which is quite convenient and makes the entire setup process quite quick. Here we go, final migration. And this will just transfer all necessary data across to the Home Center 3. So as you can currently see, we've got no big old fanfare. However, if we actually go to our Home Center 3 at the moment, so let's refresh this guy's interface. That's right, give me 1 second. Because we have factory reset him, the remote access stops working for him for a second, so I just need to simply go back to our Home Center list. He will stay on your list as well. And as you can see, he's currently just going through his little setup page. While he's actually going through his updates. Some of the updates are actually coming through next quarter. They were unfortunately delayed due to the obvious sickness concerns. What you'll actually be able to do is you'll be able to bridge Homesteader Lights and Homesteader 2s to Homesteader 3s. At the current point in time, Homesteader 3s can only bridge to other Homesteader 3s. That's coming out as well. They're also bringing out energy monitoring on Homesteader 3 systems as well. So you'll be able to do that as well, which is quite nifty. All right, so from here, we'll simply be able to open our new controller. You can still log into it directly via its IP as well. You shouldn't really run into any issues. And as you can see, it'll give you the normal introduction screen. If you migrate across, you'll have to do this finish migration process. If not, if you press start, it'll take you through the normal setup method. So for this one, we just want to do finish migration. And all this will just make sure everything is actually connected up how it should be. So it's going through, and all it's doing is getting that backup file and is loading onto our system. There we go. Once this backup's actually gone through, it'll just load through everything as well. So pretty much what you normally expect whenever you do a backup of a system. Just takes a little bit of time to load the backup file and then just reboots itself to make sure the update actually goes through without an issue. There we go. He's booted himself back up again. And what we should be able to see from here is that we go straight to devices. It'll have all our devices currently listed. As you can see, one moment, the dimmer is currently on behind us. And you can turn it off. Same with the water valve. It's a little hard to see, but it's over there. And you can set the commands. Now, its parameters actually stay the same. I modified a parameter on this flood sensor so it doesn't make an obnoxious beeping sound whenever you actually trigger them. As you can see, the parameter still went through. However, from there, you then actually have to make sure the scenes go through without an issue. As scenes haven't actually transferred across, you have to manually recreate your scenes again. I'll give you a little bit of a taste of what the actual scene system looks like. The old magic scenes were removed, and you only have building block scenes. So for this, we'll simply call this flood detected. And there's no really good images for this at the moment, so I'll simply select this one and press save. As will pop up our interface. And we simply just want to have a very basic thing. So choose a room. For this, it is our showroom. Choose a device for it, which will be our flood sensor. And then water leak equals detected. And then what we actually want to happen. So for this instance, we want our water valve, which is under display. A water valve to turn off. The water valve that we have loads into the system as a dimmer because it's a variable water valve. So normally you'd have a on-off function for it. So simply name this as save. And once that is done, you simply need to go back to scenes again. As you can see, our scene popped up, and then add another scene. So for this, we'll set up the motion sensor, which is currently sitting towards my right of me in a box. And once again, there's no real good images for it at the moment, so simply press save. And the action we want to occur for that. So from our previous home center controller, it was the showroom. Choose device, which is our motion sensor. Motion equals detected. And then what we want to actually occur. So display, which is our dimmer, we want to turn on. And then also what we want as well is for the display light. Once I have this little setting for it, one moment, a timer. Let's see where it is. And then we can have set it up so at exact time it actually turns off. So once we load this in here, that's right, that goes in there. And then, yeah, we also want this to display the water valve as well to turn off. And simply press save. I selected that's there, perfect. And then we'll just go back to the devices themselves. So if I activate this motion sensor, it's currently in a little box to my right-hand side. The light is turned on, and if you can hear it, the dimmer's gone through. Sorry, the water valve changes. We can simply just turn on the water valve again. Not sure how audible it is to you, but it's currently active in the background. And turn our dimmer off, which is off there. And then simply trigger the device. Apologies for the tamper going off on it. So that's activated, and the flood sensor is also activating as well, which you'll see in a moment. Yeah, the water's helmet's gone off. Yep, so that is done. So that entire transfer has gone through. If you did have any plugins or any allow configuration previously, you'll have to transfer it across. The Yahoo, the YR weather will just transfer through no matter what. That's essentially a standardized thing for a home center controller, so don't have to worry about that. So if you use that for pre-existing systems, you can keep using it without any issues. So yep, so that's actually the end of the presentation. If you do have any questions, our emails are on the screen. Feel free to call the office, and we should just be able to sort you out without any much issue. So other than that, that brings us to the end of the presentation. I hope you enjoyed.